really significant material today, focusing entirely on step 1 of Narcotics Anonymous.
That's right, a crucial starting point.
Absolutely. Okay,
Yeah.
let's unpack this. Because getting a solid grip on this first step, admitting powerlessness over addiction and that our lives have become unmanageable, that's our whole focus for this deep dive.
Mhm.
We'll be drawing from the NA Basic Text, the 6th edition, also It Works, How and Why, and the NA Step Working Guides.
Some core texts there.
Definitely. And our mission, really, is to help you go deeper than just the surface reading. We want to help you really feel the weight and meaning of step 1, so you're genuinely prepared to work it, apply it, take those first vital steps in recovery.
And it's so important to stress right from the start what the sources emphasize. Step 1 isn't just item number 1 on a list. It's presented as the absolute foundation.
The bedrock, yeah.
Exactly, the bedrock. Like building a house, if that foundation isn't solid, nothing built on top can truly stand secure. Step 1 is that process of acknowledging the unstable ground addiction created.
That's a great analogy. It really drives home that it's not just about starting, but starting right, by seeing the situation clearly.
And acknowledging that instability is the only way to start laying a foundation for, well, for real, lasting recovery.
I remember the basic text paints this picture, doesn't it? Someone new, maybe in treatment, listening.
Yes, listening to others share their experiences.
And slowly it dawns on them. Wait, that sounds like me. That is me. I'm an addict.
That's the moment, that recognition. The sources kind of frame it as their signing on moment.
A real shift in understanding, accepting that powerlessness.
Precisely. And signing on isn't just nodding along intellectually. It demands really grasping what powerlessness means specifically in addiction.
It's not just weakness
Isn't it?
or lack of willpower.
No, not in a general sense. The sources define it very specifically. The inability to control drug use, even when you're facing terrible negative consequences because of it. Time and time again.
So it's that loss of control.
Right. Addiction is described clearly as a disease. And the key characteristics are that loss of control. You want to stop, you intend to stop, but you just can't. Plus, the mental obsession, constantly thinking about using, and then the compulsion, that overwhelming urge that just takes over.
So saying the words "I'm powerless" is just the very beginning. The real work is, what? Taking down that wall of denial.
Exactly that. It's an active process. You have to consciously dismantle the denial, fight back against that voice that says, it's not that bad, or you can handle it next time, even when, all the evidence screams otherwise.
And that connects to how NA talks about addiction being progressive, right? It gets worse over time if it's not treated.
Yes, progressive and chronic. It doesn't just go away on its own. It relentlessly takes over more and more of your life. Your decisions, your actions, everything starts revolving around getting and using drugs.
And the sources are pretty stark about the potential endpoint.
They don't sugarcoat it. Jails, institutions, death. Those are the realities if the progression isn't arrested.
Okay, so that's powerlessness. The inability to stop using despite the harm. Then there's the second part. And our lives have become unmanageable. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because unmanageability seems to touch absolutely everything.
Oh, it absolutely permeates every corner of life. Unmanageability isn't just one thing. It's the chaos, the negative fallout, the wreckage that addiction leaves across the board.
Like dominoes falling?
Exactly. Think about the physical toll on your health. Then the mental side, the confusion, the anxiety, the inability to think clearly. Emotionally, it's a roller coaster, right? Intense highs, devastating lows, irrational anger, fear.
Yeah.
And spiritually, well, the sources talk about spiritual bankruptcy. That doesn't necessarily mean religion, but more a loss of connection to yourself, to others, to any sense of purpose beyond using. Just this deep, aching emptiness.
Which the drugs promise to fill but never really do.
They just make it worse in the long run. And of course, relationships get devastated. Responsibilities, job, bills, even basic self-care, they just fall by the wayside.
It sounds like a spiral.
Yeah.
The addiction takes hold and everything else starts to crumble. The sources mention how this feeds into extreme self-centeredness too.
Completely. Your whole world shrinks. It becomes all about you and your need to use. That naturally pushes people away, creates isolation, and causes immense pain to those who care about you.
And those feelings that come with it, inadequacy, loneliness, fear, guilt, that's all part of the unmanageability package.
Definitely. Those feelings are often constant companions in active addiction. You become trapped, living only for the next fix, completely blinkered to the future or the damage being done right now.
So step 1 lays out this 2-part reality check. But it's clearly, as you said, more than just ticking boxes intellectually. There needs to be some kind of internal shift.
Absolutely essential. The sources stress this isn't just about agreeing with the concepts. It requires a profound, sometimes painful inner transformation, a real gut-level acceptance. Yes, this is me. I am an addict.
And that acceptance often comes after hitting some kind of bottom, when the pain is just too much to ignore anymore.
Very often, yes.
Yeah.
That's a common theme in the personal stories shared in NA. A point where the consequences become undeniable, where the illusions finally shatter.
That sounds like honesty is the key to unlock that acceptance. Brutal honesty, maybe?
Unflinching honesty is critical. Honesty about the full extent of the disease, the real damage done to yourself, to others. Denial, as the texts explain, is like a fog. It distorts reality, lets you rationalize anything. Step one is the first necessary step to cutting through that fog.
And it's not just denying the big, obvious problems. The sources talk about reservations, these little hidden holdouts.
Yes. What's fascinating here is how sneaky these reservations can be. They're the little yeah buts that stop you from fully surrendering.
Like what? You mean an example?
Well, maybe thinking, okay, the heroin was the problem, but I can probably still drink socially. Or, I can handle weed, that wasn't my drug of choice.
Or maybe I can still hang out with my old using buddies, I just won't use with them.
Exactly. Or, things are different now, maybe I can control it this time. These little loopholes we leave for ourselves.
It sounds like trying to hedge your bets. Keep one foot in the old life.
And the sources are crystal clear. That doesn't work for genuine recovery. There's that powerful line in the basic text.
Which one?
In ridding ourselves of all reservations, we surrender. Then and only then can we be helped. It means letting go of all of it. Every exception, every escape plan. Complete surrender.
That makes total sense. You can't move forward if you're always looking back, keeping options open to return to the thing that was destroying you. Now, another thing that stood out is that this admission powerlessness, unmanageability, it's not a one-and-done deal.
No, absolutely not. It's described as an ongoing process, a daily practice, really.
Why
Because those old patterns of thinking and behaving, the ones tied to the addiction, they can creep back in. Maybe not with drugs, but in other areas, relationships, work, control issues. The disease is cunning.
Ah, okay, so that's where Just for Today comes in.
Precisely. It's about recommitting to this understanding each day, staying mindful, focusing on recovery now, because those old ways can resurface if we're not vigilant.
It's like a daily renewal of that initial surrender. And underpinning all this, it feels like there are some core spiritual principles at play.
Definitely. Honesty is number one, as we've said. Surrender, accepting we can't beat this alone with just willpower. Acceptance, making peace with the reality of being an addict. And, crucially, humility.
Humility how?
Recognizing that our own best efforts to control things failed miserably. Admitting we need help. That act of admitting powerlessness is, in itself, a profound act of humility.
And the step-working guides, they seem designed to help really apply these principles personally, right? Not just think about them.
What's truly insightful here is how the guides help you bridge the gap between knowing something in your head and really knowing it in your gut. They move you from intellectual understanding to deep personal acceptance.
How do they do that?
Primarily through the workbook questions. They force you to get specific. They demand concrete examples from your own life to break through denial. It's not enough to say life was messy.
Right.
You have to answer things like, give specific examples of how your relationships became unmanageable due to your using. Or describe a time you tried to control your use and failed. Very direct.
That sounds tough, but necessary.
Yeah.
It stops you from generalizing and forces you to face facts. What about the personal reflection prompts?
Those go a bit deeper, more into the internal experience. While the questions focus on what happened, the prompts might ask how it felt, or explore the underlying patterns, things like, what really happens when I try to run the show? Or, what does trust actually feel like for me? They get you thinking about the emotional and, yes, spiritual dimensions.
And it's not just questions and reflection. There are actionable next steps, too.
Yes, very practical things, like suggesting you start your day affirming your powerlessness.
Right.
Or maybe journal each evening about your honesty that day. Or making a commitment to share about step one in a meeting. Concrete actions to live the principles.
And the clarifying questions, are they for checking in on progress?
Sort of. They help you probe areas where you might still be stuck or holding on to those reservations we talked about. Questions like, where am I still trying to exert control? Or how does it really feel to admit I need help? They encourage ongoing self-awareness.
And throughout this process, The guides stress working with a sponsor.
Absolutely vital. A sponsor provides guidance, shares experience, holds you accountable, and helps you maintain that essential honesty, especially when it gets difficult. You can't really do this work effectively in isolation.
Now, obviously step 1 is foundational, but it's not the whole story. The sources mention how it leads into step 2, the hope part.
Right, because once you truly accept your powerlessness and the unmanageability, once you hit that point of surrender in step 1, it naturally creates a vacuum, a need. If I can't fix this myself, then what?
So step 1 creates the opening.
Exactly. It opens the door to the possibility presented in step 2, that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 1 clears the wreckage and makes space for that possibility, for that first real glimmer of hope.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, maybe just starting out or reconsidering this first step?
It means that really investing time and honesty into understanding and accepting step 1 is, well, it's everything for starting recovery on solid ground. Genuine recovery begins here.
It's the non-negotiable starting point.
It is. It's about having the courage to tear down the denial, face the reality of the addiction, and see the unmanageability it caused, honestly and fully.
And always remembering, like the sources say, it's about progress, not perfection. Step 1 isn't about being instantly fixed. It's about honestly acknowledging where you are so you can begin the journey forward.
You absolutely cannot start the journey until you know where you're starting from. And a final thought for you, the listener. Try not to see admitting powerlessness as weakness. It feels counterintuitive, I know. But consider this. That admission, that surrender in step 1, is perhaps the bravest, strongest thing you can do. It's the very first step towards reclaiming your real strength and building a life that's not just manageable, but truly meaningful.
Powerful stuff. Okay, so quick recap. We've dug into powerlessness, the inability to control use and unmanageability the chaos addiction creates everywhere. We hit on surrender, the absolute need for honesty, and how step 1 is an ongoing commitment.
And don't forget letting go of all those reservations, those sneaky exceptions. Remember the core principles: honesty, surrender, acceptance, humility. They're your guideposts for this step.
We really hope you'll keep exploring these resources, the basic text, it works, the step guides. They hold so much wisdom. And please, connect with the NA Fellowship. The support there is invaluable.